Welcome back to Black News Tonight. We're seeing one of the biggest battles in decades right now over the future of abortion rights in the United States. Tomorrow, Mississippi is set to ask the Supreme Court to accept its 2018 law against abortions in the state after 15 weeks and essentially overrule Roe versus Wade. Those organizing to protect reproductive rights say that if the Supreme Court does side in favor of Mississippi, it would not only outlaw most abortions there, but also open the door for nearly half the states in the country to enact their own tougher restrictions on abortion. The heaviest fallout would hit Black and brown communities. For example, according to data from the Mississippi Health Department, 3/4 of women who received abortion care in that state in 2019 were in fact Black. Joining me now to discuss the issue are my next guests. Dr. Brittney Cooper is an associate professor at Rutgers University, and Laurie Bertram Roberts is co-founder and executive director of the Mississippi Reproductive Freedom Fund. Thank you both for joining me on Black News Tonight. Dr. Cooper, always good to see you back on the show. The state of Mississippi will ask the Supreme Court tomorrow to uphold one of its anti-abortion laws. Can you break down what that law says and why it deserves national attention?
So the Mississippi law bans abortions after 15 weeks with no sense that viability can't often even be determined that quickly because pregnant people, don't necessarily know that they're pregnant. They haven't necessarily received all of the bodily signs that there may be something going on. And so this is an effort to do an end run around Roe v. Wade, which guaranteed folks the right to abortions as a matter of privacy. And so the 73 decision said that women, and today we would include all pregnant people, have the right to make decisions with their doctors about their care with the privacy of their medical provider. And this goes against that and says that no one has the fundamental right to terminate a pregnancy, and that instead, that if you don't know about a pregnancy prior to 15 weeks, then you cannot eliminate that pregnancy at all. In many cases, most abortion laws that have become incredibly restrictive at least give you viability, at least give you up to 20 weeks, which is an additional 5 to 6 weeks of time before you are, forced into this tough position around reproductive care.
And Dr. Cooper, the reason why that distinction from 15 to 20 is important is because, if I'm understanding correctly, many people who are pregnant don't know they're pregnant right away. This assumption that you know from day one and that you can just, make a reproductive decision immediately is somewhat untrue or inaccurate, no?
I mean, it's so clear that these laws are being passed by people who have no idea how reproduction works in gestating bodies. So we don't start counting pregnancy from the moment that your body conceives of a pregnancy. If you go to the doctor, your pregnancy technically is counted from the last time that you had a menstrual cycle. Well, that can vary based upon stress. It can vary based upon hormones. All kinds of things can be going on in the environment. Sometimes folks experience menstrual symptoms that they mistake as being menstruation that are not. And so that can throw your timeline off drastically. And so by narrowing the timeline, it becomes a way to narrow the set of options. And let's remember that these laws also join a spate of laws that, require folks to come back to the abortion clinic after a 24-hour waiting period in some states, right? And this is after a massive assault that we've seen over the last decade that has restricted abortions, particularly across the South. And so folks in places like Texas are already having to leave the state to access abortion care anyway. So if you add on top of that a restriction based upon when we can determine viability, right, which often doesn't happen. I mean, 15 weeks is, just a little bit past the 3-month mark, and not actually even that if we think about that additional 2 weeks based upon menstrual cycles. When you put all of that together, you really have this terrible thing that sort of limits women's and pregnant folks' ability to make good healthcare decisions for their bodies. And that's going to have an extreme impact in Black communities because Black women in particular and poor women are overrepresented as people who need this kind of care, who often need to terminate pregnancies. We're also overrepresented in terms of people who have real issues with maternal mortality. And so even just limiting our ability to make choices about this might force us into positions where we carry dangerous pregnancies to term without the care that we need in order to sustain those pregnancies in a healthy way. And so this is going to have a cascading effect on communities that are already beset by very poor healthcare outcomes in the first place.
Laurie, let's pick up right there, because this is a key point that Brittany makes, right? If the Supreme Court approves of the 15-week ban, there will be an impact on childbearing people everywhere. But in Black and brown communities, it seems to me that there'd be a disproportionately negative impact. Can you talk about what the impact would be, why it would be disproportionate?
Yeah, if you look at a community like Mississippi, right? Look at a state like Mississippi, where we are one of the poorest states in the country, right? And if you look at a community like the Mississippi Delta, which is one of the poorest communities in the state of Mississippi, so it's the poorest community in the poorest state, right? And it's mostly Black. It's mostly us, right? And so you're talking about, that is a community that already has a lack of providers, a lack of access to contraception, a lack of access to prenatal care. We have counties that do not even have OBGYNs that take Medicaid, that barely have any family providers that take Medicaid. Medicaid is the biggest provider of healthcare for pregnant people in the state of Mississippi, right? And we do not have Medicaid expansion, which also makes it easier for people to decide whether or not they want to continue a pregnancy, right? Because if you have a chronic health condition and you can't manage it because you don't have health care, how do you decide if you want to gestate a human? So like all of these things already intercede and block people's lives, whether or not they want to decide to become a parent. And then when you take another thing away that makes it possible for you to decide whether or not you want to parent or not, it's always going to fall disproportionately on us, because we already disproportionately end up with unplanned pregnancies because of medical racism, because of classism, because of all of these things that are oppressive in our states already. We already have a lack of comprehensive sex ed. We have a lack of all kinds of structural things that would make it easier for people to plan their pregnancies, for people to make better informed reproductive decisions. But we don't support those things in Mississippi. We don't support parenting. We don't support equal pay. We don't support childcare. We don't support paid time off for when you have children. We don't support family leave. None of that. Free childcare. We barely let people get on TANF. We are one of the most restrictive states for TANF in the country. So anytime I hear Phil Bryant and Tate Reeves get on TV or get on a talk show talking about how we just want to protect the babies and we want to make sure that, we're protecting children, but you don't care about children. You don't care about living children. The only thing that you've ever done in the time that I've been going to the Capitol that had anything to do with families was shift money meant for children and families to be able to parent their own children and families and move it to foster care, so that you're removing poor children and putting them in good homes and moving them out of their birth families' homes, and in reducing the time that you can take children out of foster care and have them adopted. So that's the only thing I've seen them working on.
Wow. Brittany, I'm listening to Laurie talk about what's happening in Mississippi, and I'm looking at the broader national landscape, and it seems like it's not an isolated case. I mean, in Texas, Republican Governor Greg Abbott approved a law banning abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy, which it's hard to even with a straight face make a good faith argument that they're not simply outlawing abortion. Do we expect other states to follow suit?
There are states that already have laws that will be triggered the minute that the Supreme Court overturns this decision in enacting increased restrictions on abortion, right? But also so much of what the Supreme Court is doing, if they choose to overturn Roe or to severely restrict what Roe allowed, is basically to give carte blanche to states that have already begun to put these mechanisms in place. I'm from Louisiana. In 2020, Louisiana passed an amendment to their constitution that said that there is no right to abortion. Fundamentally, like they literally passed a law in the changes to the constitution to say that folks don't have the right to terminate pregnancies. And so that's the thing that we've got to sort of really get clear about in our communities, right? Is that this is a full court press, and it isn't about healthcare. It isn't about valuing life. It is all about largely white men making these laws, helped along by the sort of duped religious right, to control women's bodies and to control reproductive access and reproductive care. And as Laurie pointed out, when we talk about reproductive justice in our communities, let's remember that we have always, as a Black community, particularly Black women reproductive justice activists, have said, when we say reproductive justice, we mean the right to parent or to not parent, and to parent one's children in safe and healthy environments. That is what is on the chopping block here. And in case our folks really don't think that this is about, some old school kind of racist strategy, let's remember that one of the ways that our country enacted slavery in Black women's lives was to control their reproduction. And so when you have a Supreme Court largely led by conservatives that is saying to us again in 2021 that you don't have the right to determine what happens with your body, and they're also doing it at 15 weeks, which is basically saying that before there's even any possibility of fetal viability outside of the womb, we're going to restrict your ability to make choices about blood of your blood, flesh of your flesh, bone of your bone, right? And we get caught up in the moral arguments about this, and this isn't about that. This is about our right to have self-determination and autonomy. And it is also about Laurie's point, which is we want to build strong, healthy Black families. When these Republicans say that this is, that abortions have killed so many Black babies, y'all know they don't care about Black babies. What in their policy agenda cares about Black babies? They don't care about our families, right? They care about their right to control. And let me add one last thing. They also care about making white women have more children. This is also about their own demographic anxiety, because we know that white populations are rapidly becoming the minority because of capitalist structures. Folks can't support these families. And because of that, they need white women to have more babies. And white women are like, look, but we can't support these kids. We can't give them these middle-class lifestyles. So that's what's going on here. And if that means that you have to then take away reproductive access for women of color as a byproduct of trying to control everybody's reproduction, then these men are up for the task. And we've got to stand up and we've got to say, hell no.
Dr. Cooper talking that talk. Brittany and Laurie, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's an important conversation that we'll continue to have here at Black News Tonight.